remember that I had a bloody good long shit. A week or so later, Veronica came up to town so that I could introduce her to my gang from school. It proved a nameless day of which no one wanted to take charge. We went round the Tate, then walked up to Buckingham Palace and into Hyde Park, heading for Speaker's Corner. But there weren't any speakers in action, so we wandered along Oxford Street, looking at the shops, and ended up in Trafalgar Square among the lions. Anyone would have thought we were tourists. At first, I was watching to see how my friends reacted to Veronica, but soon became more interested in what she thought of them. She laughed at Colin's jokes more easily than at mine, which annoyed me, and asked Alex how his father made his money. Marine insurance, he told her, to my surprise. She seemed happy to keep Adrian for last. I'd told her he was at Cambridge, and she tried out various names on him. At a couple of them he nodded and said, "Yes, I know the sort of people they are." This sounded pretty rude to me, but Veronica didn't take offence. Instead, she mentioned colleges and dons and tea shops in a way that made me feel left out. "How come you know so much about the place?" I asked. "That's where Jack is." "Jack? My brother? You remember?" "Let me see, was he the one who was younger than your father?" I thought that wasn't bad, but she didn't even smile. "What's Jack reading?" I asked, trying to make up ground. "Moral sciences," she replied, "like Adrian." "I know what Adrian's bloody reading, thank you very much," I wanted to say. Instead, I sulked for a while and talked to Colin about films. Towards the end of the afternoon we took photos. She asked for one with your friends. The three of them shuffled politely into line, whereupon she rearranged them. Adrian and Colin, the two tallest, on either side of her, with Alex beyond Colin. The resulting print made her look even slighter than she did in the flesh. Many years later, when I came to examine this photo again, looking for answers, I wondered about the fact that she never wore heels of any height. I'd read somewhere that if you want to make people pay attention to what you're saying, you don't raise your voice, but lower it. This is what really commands attention. Perhaps hers was a similar kind of trick with height, though whether she went in for tricks is a question I still haven't resolved. When I was going out with her, it always seemed that her actions were instinctive. But then I was resistant to the whole idea that women were or could be manipulative. This may tell you more about me than it does about her, and even if I were to decide, at this late stage, that she was, and always had been calculating, I'm not sure it would help matters. By which I mean, help me. We walked her to Charing Cross and waved her off to Chislehurst in a mock heroic way, as if she were travelling to Samarkand. Then we sat in the bar of the station hotel drinking beer and feeling very grown up. "Nice girl," said Colin. "Very nice," added Alex. "That's philosophically self-evident," I almost shouted. Well, I was a little overexcited. I turned to Adrian. "Any advance on very nice?" "You don't actually need me to congratulate you, do you, Anthony?" "Yes, why the fuck shouldn't I?" "Then of course I do." But his attitude seemed to criticize my neediness and the other two for pandering to it. I felt slightly panicked. I didn't want the day to unravel, though looking back, it was not the day but the four of us that were beginning to unravel. "So, have you come across Brother Jack at Cambridge?" "I haven't met him, no, and don't expect to. He's in his final year, but I've heard of him, read about him in a magazine article, and about the people he goes around with, yes. He clearly wanted to leave it at that, but I wouldn't let him." "And so, what do you think of him?" Adrian paused. He took a sip of beer and then said with sudden vehemence, "I hate the way the English have of not being serious about being serious. I really hate it." In another mood, I might have taken this as a strike against the three of us. Instead, I felt a throb of vindication. Veronica and I continued going out together all through our second year. One evening, perhaps a little drunk, she let me put my hand down her knickers. I felt extravagant pride as I scuffled around. She wouldn't let me put my finger inside her, but wordlessly over the next few days, we developed a way to pleasure. We would be on the floor, kissing. I would take off my watch, roll up my left sleeve, put my hand into her knickers, and gradually shuffle them down her thighs a little. Then I would place my hand flat on the floor, and she would rub herself against my trapped wrist until she came. For a few weeks this made me feel masterful, but back in my room my wanking was sometimes edged with resentment. And what kind of a trade-off had I got myself into now? A better or a worse one? I discovered something else I couldn't understand. I was, presumably, meant to feel closer to her, but didn't. So, do you ever think about where our relationship is heading? She said it just like that, out of the blue. She had come round for tea, bringing slices of fruitcake. Do you? I asked first. I thought, and it may not have been a gallant reaction, is this why you've started letting me put my hand down your pants? Does it have to head somewhere? Isn't that what relationships do? I don't know, I haven't been in enough of them. Look, Tony, she said, I don't stagnate. I thought about this for a while, or tried to, but instead kept seeing an image of stagnant water with thick scum and hovering mosquitoes. I realized I wasn't much good at discussing this sort of stuff. So, do you think we're stagnating? She did that eyebrow above the spectacle frame tick that I no longer found quite so cute. I went on, isn't there something between stagnation and heading somewhere? Like having a nice time, enjoy the day and all that. But just saying this made me wonder if I was enjoying the day any longer. I also thought, what does she want me to say? And do you think we're suited? You keep asking me questions as if you know the answer to them, or as if you know the answer you want. So why don't you tell me what it is, and I'll tell you whether it's mine as well. You're quite cowardly, aren't you, Tony? I think it's more that I'm peaceable. Well, I wouldn't want to disturb your self-image. We finished our tea. I wrapped up the 2 remaining slices of cake and put them in a tin. Veronica kissed me nearer the corner of my lips than the centre, and then left. In my mind, this was the beginning of the end of our relationship. Or have I just remembered it this way, to make it seem so, and to apportion blame? If asked in a court of law what happened and what was said, I could only attest to the words heading, stagnating, and peaceable. I'd never thought of myself as peaceable or its opposite until then. I would also swear to the truth of the biscuit tin. It was burgundy red with the Queen's smiling profile.